identification rules. There's 3 options that you have to identify. Really, the main ones I like to cover is the 3 property rule and the 200% rule. The 3 property rule is just simply identifying 3 properties or assets that you would reinvest into. Now, this would make sense in a market like in San Diego where you're selling here and buying here. However, a typical example is someone who might be selling in San Diego and let's say reinvesting into Texas. Well, in that market, you're typically going to find properties are half the price, if not a third of the price of San Diego. So if I sold a property for $1 million and I only had 3 properties to identify, well, you could see how that would pose a problem. So in this case, I sell $1 million property, I get to identify as many properties are within $2 million. So $1 million sale, 200%, $2 million worth of properties I get to identify. So if I were buying in Texas, that might look like 6 or 8 properties to fit into that $2 million rule. Another item I want to note is that during the identification process, you don't need to turn your sheet into the intermediary or 1031 exchange contact until you're at the 45 days. So what you can do is mentally make note of properties, but instead of turning it in, pulling it back, changing out a property, turning it back in, just know you have a right to change, remove things, add things, so long as you have the firm set reinvestment properties by day 45. So for this other example, 95% rule, must purchase 95% value of all properties identified. This typically is for much larger assets, not a rule that I'm going to cover unless you have specific questions about it. We can definitely cover that on a separate call. Outside of that, the main rules you want to understand is 3 property rule and 200% rule.